Hello and welcome to the Physiology of Endurance Running podcast. I'm Owain and we're here with the 212 man. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, just sounds pretty good. 212. Yeah.
So this is our, I guess, post Valencia show. As always, as the entire block has been, we're sponsored by Saw. Dan had his Saw shorts on at the weekend. I assume no issues.
No issues. I saw shorts, saw socks as well. Saw socks,
nice.
And rate both of them. No issues with the shorts at all. Held all my 6 gels in easily. That was not the 29 seconds I needed. That wasn't the difference. The shorts were fantastic. So yeah, thank you Saw for giving them to me.
Yeah, thanks for the support. Also worth, just because I've had a few people ask, how you carried the gels, which we'll get to, but there's a festive challenge that Saw are doing on Strava, I think. You have to run, I think, you have to do 21 hours of activity in December, and then you get £60 off. So if you're interested at all in the Saw shorts, get on that. £60 off is not to be sniffed at with Saw.
That's a good discount, isn't it?
Yeah,
good discount.
But yeah, thank you as always, Saw. So I guess we'll quickly run through your week building up to the race, and then get to sort of the reason why everyone's here.
Well, should we start with I ran 2:12:59.
59,
which
take the chip time.
Take chip time. The initially given on the gun time 2:13:02 was it? But yeah, luckily managed to sneak under 2:12:59. Not quite the 2:12:30, which was the dream goal, the stretch goal to go and run the European road running time, but 2.5 minute PB nearly, 2 minutes 20 seconds, and really, really happy with that. So should we dig into how it played out?
Yeah.
Right, let's get my Strava up. Teething problems here. So that was the week. That was, what was it? The week beginning 25th. The 25th. Nice. So 25th. So 14k, 4:24 a k. Single run that day, nice and easy. So that was Monday. I basically just been knocking off a little bit of distance on each run. That was my mentality, just trying to keep a frequency as much as possible, in the same amount of runs per week, but reducing the volume a little and maintaining the intensity, which is pretty much what the literature says on how best to taper.
Yep.
Reduce volume, maintain frequency of running, maintain intensity, or slightly increase. But I think for the marathon, you don't want to slightly increase your intensity. Really, it's not the direction you're heading. So yeah, Monday 14k, 4:24 a k. Tuesday 14k in the morning, 4:24 a k. Did a couple of strides in that run, and then in the evening did 7k on the treadmill. I was wanting to do some strides in this morning. That was it. I wanted to do some strides in the morning, but I was cutting it really fine, so it didn't actually. I did one 10-second burst during the run. And then it went straight to get changed and showered to get to an appointment in work. But then doubled, ran 7k on a treadmill in the afternoon, in the evening, and then went outside for some strides, 3 by 15 seconds. Walk back recovery, nice and chilled. Next day, so that's Wednesday, I went to the track. Had to dodge a rugby lot. It was Bucks Wednesday, so
anyone that knows Cardiff Met knows you've absolutely taken your life in your own hands running on a Wednesday afternoon around the track. It's risky enough around there anyway.
I know. I meant to go in the morning, ran out of time to go in the morning, had stuff to get done. Managed to sneak it in between rugby matches just about. So we did a 5k warm up. I did it at a pretty steady pace, although this is round the track, so the satellite's probably moving a bit generous. So that was 3:49 a k for 5k warm up, and then I did 15 400s of 30 seconds recovery. Started in 72s, but got down to 70s. Most of them were 70, 71. Felt really good. I really wanted to make sure it was definitely a bit, yeah, it was getting on the track was a bit tricky, but I really wanted to get on the track to actually try the Meta Speed Skies outside, because I hadn't done that. I won them once on the treadmill and said, yeah, these are good. And but I hadn't run them outside, so I thought I really would like to get on the track and use them. Yeah, outside felt really good. Heart rates were great during the session. I think I peaked at like 163. It's got my Strava here. Yeah, max heart rate 163. So threshold heart rate's normally about 170. So and it did feel like cruisy as well. Just felt pretty controlled. Just felt like I didn't need to go any faster than 70s. Like that's 255 a k pace, so no need to go any faster. So that was nice. Ticked that one off. Didn't run again that day. Next day, I did half an hour. That's Thursday, right? So 28th, half an hour in the morning, 7.5 k. In the afternoon, I also did 7 k. So 30 minutes, 407 a k. Oh, on my Strava here, I put, yes, this is what fresh legs feel like. I just felt like super good, just effortlessly going a bit quicker than normal. My heart rate's still great. Like, what was it? Not really pushing intensity. My average heart rate was 122 for 407 a k. So yeah, that was nice, like getting some confidence. Then up to Friday. So Friday was the day we traveled out. Bit of a long journey because we had to factor in dropping Nye off down Bridgewater services, so near Taunton in I think that's Somerset, is it? In the southwest. To then travel to give Nye to my parents who was going to have him for a weekend, and then me and Jemima to drive over to Luton because we were flying from Luton, which was not. It was a lot of driving, but it was just it was the only one where the flights weren't extortionate and the timings were all right, because there was flights from Bristol, but it was like 7 in the morning, which would have mean like giving Nye to my parents just wasn't going to work. So we're flying from Luton. Basically, the long story was I had to get up at 6 a.m. to just do a 20-minute run. I would have liked to have done more, but I just didn't want to get up any earlier. So did that, left, drove an hour and a half to Bridgewater, gave Nye to my parents, drove 3 hours to Luton, flew through from Luton into Alicante, because Alicante that was just the best flight options.
Yeah,
the timings.
It's really hard to get to Valencia from the UK, isn't it? I think it's hard everywhere. I think everyone either goes to Alicante or Madrid.
Yeah,
Don't really fly to Valencia.
Yeah, so flew into it was all right, and it was the flights ended up being an all right price. I can't remember what they were off the top of my head, but it was still quite a lot for. I didn't want to pay any more. It was like 150 quid, I think, each or something, maybe a little bit less. But to go into Valencia, just go direct to Valencia. The timing of the flights didn't work anyway, and it was going to be like 400 quid. So 800 quid for both of us, which was not spending that. But anyway, flew into Alicante. Then it was a 3-hour drive from Alicante to our Airbnb. So what was that? It ended up a lot of driving that day. My body was feeling not great afterwards. But I managed to persuade Jemima to go for a little jog when we got there. So at 9:30 at night in Valencia, we did 18 minutes 55 seconds, 5:23 a k pace. A really nice shuffle just to like a park just by our Airbnb. And that was nice just to move, to be honest. We said before when I drove up to Scotland, my body doesn't like driving. And I think I ended up doing like 7 hours of driving that day, plus 2.5 hours on a plane. So it was a lot of just sitting. But yeah, could have been worse. Went smoothly, got there fine, didn't feel too bad. So basically it's now Saturday, so day before the race. Ran with Jemima, which is nice. Don't get a chance to run with her very much. Obviously because one of us is looking after Nye, but yeah, we did nearly 12 k, so a bit of distance, but again, really slow. Average 5:25 a k. I did a couple of k by myself just to run a little bit faster, a bit close to what I normally do, just to make sure my body doesn't forget how to run. And I chucked in 2 times 30 seconds off 40-second jog. And that was just a marathon race pace, so 3:12 and 3:08 a k for those two. But really nice. We got to the map. There's if you haven't been to Valencia, there's a massive like park/garden that goes through like the old riverbeds, like through the middle, and it's where you really start. So it's just really nice. It goes on for something like 10k, I think, and we just went out and back along there. Like really nice. The amount of like people running through there was ridiculous.
How many super shoes as well?
Oh yeah, loads of super shoes, loads of like shakeout runs, loads of selfie sticks, loads of influencers doing their group runs together. Didn't see anyone. I think I saw a French guy I recognised. I think he's like might have retired now. I can't remember his name. He ran like 2:19, but I think he was like an ex 10k runner who was giving him the marathon and stuff. A bit of a fun like go. But yeah, loads of people running. I had a comment. I'm not sure if it's on that run, but someone somewhere messaged me saying it's a bit of a long shakeout. And yeah, like it's an hour. It was like an hour and 3 minutes of running, and like nearly 12k. But my average heart rate was 101. So I didn't think like it was taking much out of me. And my heart rate monitor was even working. I was like, I was doubtful of this. I was checking it. I know it looks completely fine. Average heart rate was super low. My fat burning would have been like really, really high, and it's just relative. And I probably would have. I'd liked to have done a little bit more the day before. So, in balance, I didn't think it was going to take too much out of me, and I was just enjoying running somewhere nice with Jemima. And
I think that's like at least personal experience and maybe a bit anecdotal. Like that's pretty rare to actually like not feel like shit the day before. I know if I'm doing a big race, I normally think I have like COVID or something the day before. Like I'm absolutely in the bin, like mentally. So to just enjoy running is probably actually like sets you up for quite a nice day, right? Rather than having a bit of a sort of mental breakdown whilst running, thinking I can't possibly run a marathon tomorrow, and then just being in your head all day.
Yeah, and it was just I wasn't thinking about, because the pace was so much slower than I normally run anyway. I wasn't really thinking about what's my heart rate like for the pace, how do I feel? And my legs did feel pretty naff for the first like couple of k, but I sort of expected to because of all the traveling. And then actually, even if your body is a bit off, running at 5-minute k pace is going to feel like super easy. So it was nicer just to have that confidence, I think, rather than go out and run my normal like 4:20 a k pace and go and start overanalyzing how you're feeling and all of that. It was just enjoying my experience and enjoying my run. So that was nice, and nice to actually feel good, I guess. And then Saturday, that's when I started really hammering the carbs. So I didn't we've talked about like doing 10 grams per kilo of body weight, 10 to 12, that's my recommendations, right? 10 to 12 grams per kilo of body weight. And I didn't track it, but I was just aiming for high carbs, but also like low fiber, because again, I think we talked about this in my last episode.
We did.
So trying to have a low residue diet, so not loads of fat, not loads of fiber, nothing that's going to basically sit in the stomach, hopefully to avoid basically making all those carbs really easy to digest, and also not to have any like GI distress, any toilet breaks the next day during the race. So I ate a lot of bread, a lot of white bread. So I think breakfast was white bread, Nutella, orange juice. So I'm trying to avoid like fruits, anything like that. So I can have juice, that's all right, but like not having a whole orange. And we had some really nice, like Jemima bought the day before, some really nice local oranges. Like if you go to Valencia, all the trees that like just parked along the side of the road are full of oranges, which just look incredible. I don't know if people actually eat them, but like they look, it's definitely orange country. And then lunch, we had lunch at home. Like we had some pasta, more bread, more juice. Dinner, we went out for paella, which I did last time. We literally went to the same restaurant as last time. We had a seafood paella, which I think seafood you go as a bit risky, but it was the same restaurant that I had last time. It was like fine last time. And actually rice, I prefer rice to pasta. It's not quite so heavy. Like there's the last meal. So yeah, that was good. And then I think we got an ice cream on the way home. So again, more carbs. Then when we got back to our Airbnb tea and hot and Milka chocolate, so more carbs.
Nice.
So I felt pretty carved up, but not like bloated or horrible. So that was good. So Saturday ticked off. Didn't do too much walking around the city. We did do a bit. We went into the city centre and had a bit of a wander, but tried to stay off my feet a little bit more than I did last year. I guess it's a race day.
Yeah. What time did you get up then? When was the alarm?
So the race started at 8:15. I got up at 5. More bread and Nutella and orange juice, which is sort of a bit of a, that's what I've done for the last few, I think, marathons. Is not necessarily Nutella, but I've had jam or stuff like that. Something that's just a bit more carbs, not and you can't just eat plain bread like that. And it's just easy to get anywhere. You can find bread and Nutella, bread and jam anywhere. And I think the juice for the fructose, because we've talked about this last time, fructose is a really good source of carbohydrate for the liver. Which is basically what you're going to deplete overnight. The carbohydrate stores in your muscles, your muscle glycogen is already going to be completely full. You're not going to burn through that overnight when you're sleeping because you're not doing any activity, but your liver glycogen is going to drop a bit to try to maintain your blood glucose overnight, the glucose for the brain, etc. So yeah, getting some orange juice in with that as well, and hydration too. Would have liked to have a coffee, but Joanne was still asleep. She didn't come over to the start with me because it just didn't make sense from a spectating point of view. So yeah. I let her have a lie, and I snuck out the door at I think it was about 7. Could just walk to the start. It was 2K to the start. And yeah, got to the start area is really good for the elites. You're in an underground car park basically right by the start and finish area. So everyone's warming up in this underground car park.
It's worth seeking out the video. The video of it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It is cool. So every management agency has got its own booth. So on the side, which is cool. So it's like an NN one, and I can't think of any of the management companies now, but there was an NN one. I saw Jake Smith, who I'm mates with, runs the same club as me, Pontypridd Road, and so went to go and saw him, gave him a wave, went to go up to have a chat with him, and the NN support staff just acted like bouncers, pulled their shoulders together. I was like, nah, you're not going through there, mate. I didn't say that. That was heavily implied. Jake goes, I'll come out to you, Dan, don't worry. I wasn't getting anywhere because in there was all the NN runners, so I can't think who was actually in there now for them, but there were a lot of 202, 203, 204 guys in there, and I was not allowed to go near them. But anyway, I had a nice chat with Jake. We managed to get because we were sub-elite numbers, or I don't know, they were elite numbers. We didn't have drinks basically. There were booths which just anyone could just go in. We commandeered a British one, which was fun. We had all the Brits basically came into our booth, which was nice. So there were loads of us. It was great, and loads of people I knew, Ronnie Richmond from Biddeford, Dan Hamilton, who's my club as well. Clara Evans. What's Jake Smith's sister called? She was in there.
Molly Smith,
who ran amazingly, and she ran 2:31, I think 2:32. Norman Shreve, just loads. So it was a really nice atmosphere, really nice atmosphere. I'm sorry if I've forgotten your name and you're listening to this podcast, but it was just nice atmosphere. Everyone was pretty relaxed. I jogged 11 minutes with Clara, doing many laps of this multi-story of this underground car park. No idea what pace it actually was. I put it on treadmill mode because I was never going to get satellites down there. So it says I did 11 minutes at 4:34 a k. Heart rate was average of 100, so maybe it was slower than that. I don't know. It was very slow, and I felt very comfortable. By the end, it got up to 120, I think. That was a warm up. I didn't do any strides. I just don't think there's any point doing strides. The pace you're setting off at isn't that fast. They're going to deplete your glycogen stores. Why add in any intensity? So yeah,
how early did you have to get to the start in the sub-elite start?
not bad actually. I think it was like 15 minutes before.
Yeah.
I think they took us out like
Right.
15 minutes before, but even then you could jog a little bit. I didn't do any jogging. I'd done my warm up, but it wasn't freezing cold. You could stay warm. There were portaloos literally right by the start. I did have some caffeine chewing gum, so this was a little bit of a risk. But this was a caffeine chewing gum that I got free at the expo, which we went to on a Saturday. I really wanted to. I really like just having a coffee before, but obviously, like I said, I hadn't managed to do that. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to risk it. Caffeine chewing gum. 30 minutes before we started. Like the caffeine gets into your system really, really quickly, so you don't need to have it like hours before you start. I think it works as 160 milligrams, which was on the lower end. Like if I was going to have it properly, you normally aim for 3 to 6 milligrams per kilo of body weight. So for me, that's getting up to 180 to 360 milligrams of caffeine. So I only took 160. I thought, well, if I'm going to experiment, don't go do anything stupid like take on 500 milligrams of caffeine. So I had 160 milligrams of. It says it was 160 milligrams in the however many pieces of chewing gum I had, but yeah, had some caffeine. Went to the loo multiple times. One thing about if you're going to try the low residue diet, it really does work, but you are just not going to need to go do a poo many times before you race because there's no fiber in your system. And that's something like I've panicked before like, have I got everything out? Have I gone? Am I ready to start? So I literally did go to a Portaloo 5 times, I think, between getting to the warm-up area and starting the race. But probably it's too much information, but it's worth. I was getting in my own head, but about it, even though I know this happens before. But yeah, that was up to the race. Should we talk through that now, I guess?
Yeah. I don't know how you want to take this, because I guess, well, I don't know. I guess let's chuck a question in, because it's been, a few people have asked, did you stick to your pacing strategy?
So yeah, so with my pacing strategy, we've talked about it previously. The last like 5 or so marathons, I've used heart rate. So I've got a chest strap on to get a good measure of my heart rate. And I'm looking at the average from each K and making sure that I'm not going too high. Basically, just making sure it's not getting up too high too early. Like I know my LT2 heart rate is 170. I don't want to be anywhere near that during the first few K. And from the data I've gathered from the last few marathons, I know that I don't want to be hitting 160 before 5K. It was 162 before 10K. And then it was basically one beat every 5K up to 30K. So yeah, 163 before 15, 164 before 20, 165 before 25. And then I think 30K, it was like, yeah, 167. And then it's just run as hard as you can. And that was my strategy. That was my plan going into it. As I said, it works really well every other time. And yeah, that's what I was going to do on the day. So started off, the thing is, the heart rate is obviously going to be more helpful after you've done probably 2 or 3K where it's actually reached a steady state. So I was looking at the pace for the first few K, knowing that I didn't want to run any faster than 308s really. So first few K, 310, 39, 37, 38, 308, and like great. Now I can rely on my heart rate, and I'm pretty happy with that. And what's nice about this is that even by 5K, I knew I was on for a good day. I knew it was going to be a good day. I couldn't say exactly what I was going to run, but the paces, the heart rate was great. I felt great. The paces were coming out fast for the heart rate compared to what we have done in previous marathons. So even then, I was like 5K and I'm like, right, it's going to go well today. I don't know if I'm going to run 2:12:30, but I'm going to PB. I was confident enough that I was going to run fast, run out faster than 2:15.
So sorry, because we had a couple of questions saying, when did you know sort of it was on, as
Yeah.
The time you ran, like, so you started off and you felt good, but then like at any point did you know what you were going to run, or like, are you able to do the maths like when your watch is lapping, or did you have like, were there any timing trucks, or did they
Yeah.
have like timing on some of the like K splits or like 5K splits or
No, they
anything?
didn't. They didn't. And like last time, I was running with the elite women, and was literally a pace car in front of us, which was saying projected time the whole way, so you knew exactly what you were on for.
Yeah.
And this time, it was very much a case of just working out the splits. And the watch, the lap, your Garmin always comes up or generous, doesn't it? The GPS always comes up a little bit generous. And I was running every tangent. I was running the course as far as close as you can, and even then the GPS is just a little bit generous. And to start off with, it was pretty close to where the K markers were, but it just drifted off over time. But I knew that 2:12:30 is 3:08 a K, and that is 15:40 for 5K, so that's pretty easy maths. So I was keeping an eye on that. I knew, like I said, I knew it was going to be a good day by 5K. I was just like, the heart rate had stabilized at like 160. The paces are coming like 3:08, 3:09 a K on Strava, but a little bit slower in real life. But I knew that 2:12:30 was, I think 10K in, I knew 2:12:30 was going to be, I thought that was going to be very, very best case scenario. I was already in my head, I was thinking, I think I'm just going to miss this. I think I'm just going to miss it. I've got my splits here from the timing gates. Let's have a look from the chip timing. So
yeah, because you're metronomic. I was following you on the app, and it was like 50, was it 5:05 or 5:04 for like every mile, or
yeah,
every 5K split in terms of mile pace.
yeah. So I was 15:48 through 5K, which is 8 seconds off. But that was fine. 10K, I'm 31:25 through 10K. I needed to run 31:20, so I've got a bit closer. And actually, that 5K was a 15:37, which is 3:07 a K. And like that average, if I'd held, if I'd done that 5K to 10K split for every for the whole way, that worked out as 2:11:50 for the marathon. So I think if I was going to be really nitpicky, I think I just was a bit aggressive from 5K to 15K, because the next 5K was also 15:38, so the same pace. So yeah, 3:08 a K. I was just like slightly aggressive, and I knew I was in my heart rate. I knew, but
were
I was
you above
literally
your plan at that point?
I was on the limit of what I wanted to do. I was probably, I in my head I was like, right, it'd be good to be under 162 by 10K, and I think I was like 162 for 9K and 10K. So it's like very, very marginal. But I just knew that this was being aggressive. But the start is crazy. There's so many people running really fast, and I wanted to definitely make sure I didn't go out too fast. So I was looking at the average pace, or the average lap pace for the first few K, to make sure I wasn't. And actually that basically meant that I just worked my way through the groups. So there were groups formed quite quickly. So I don't know where I was on the road, but I basically worked through 3 groups to get up to the group I eventually ended up running with. So I would just sort of settle with that, work my way up to a group, settle, see if they were going fast enough for me, and what my heart rate was like, what my pace was doing, how I was feeling, and realizing actually I need to move up to the next group, and just hopped I think by 10K I'd got into the group I ended up running with for the vast majority of the race. And then it was like, well, this is like the limit of where I don't want to go any faster than this, but I don't want to drop back, because it's so much. It felt much easier sitting at the back or in the middle of a group, just having a little bit of a draft. Drafting doesn't make a difference to the same extent in running versus cycling, but it does make a little bit of a difference. And psychologically, it was so much easier. So I knew I was being aggressive, sort of slightly aggressive with the pacing, but I felt like the value of being in the group was worth it. And I think it was. I ended up being in that group the whole way. So we got to 15K now in terms of pacing. I guess. So what was that? 20K. went through in 62:47. So I'm now that's like bang on pretty much the pace I need to run for to run 2:12. I know, so 15k. I've lost it now. What am I on here? Yeah, 20k I was basically on pace. 15k, 20k I was basically on pace. Halfway I went through in 66:13. So that is exactly the pace I need to run 2:12:30. But by now I thought I was already thinking, not sure if I'm quite going to hold this. And I slowed a little bit in the second half last year in Valencia, and I thought that's probably the way it was going to go. So by then, you don't know if you're going to be, I'm definitely not going to run 2:12:30. But then I was thinking, yeah, it's going to be a good day. I'm going to PB, but I'm just going to miss it. And that's basically what happens. Like we had a few slower Ks, like 25k. So 20 to 25k was a little bit slower. I ran my spreadsheet's not geared up for this.
There's a couple of on Strava, at least there's a couple of like 3:12 a k.
Yeah, there are a few. I think I averaged. The problem is I put in the half time as well. So on my spreadsheet. But yeah, I ran 15:59 from 25 to 30k. And I think 20 to 25 was pretty similar. It was about a 15:50. So just slowing a little bit. I've got it here. So yeah, and 15:54 and then a 15:59. So that's still PB pace. That's still faster than I ran last year. So it's still like 2:14:50 pace, but that's starting to eat into my time now. I rallied a bit at 35k, so I went down to a 15:47 from 30 to 35k, and then 35 to 40k I ran 15:46. So I brought it back a bit. At 35k, that was when I knew I definitely wasn't going to run 2:12:30. I'd been doing my maths. I knew I was 30 seconds off, and I just, with my condition, how I felt, I just knew even if I closed really well, I couldn't bring back 30 seconds. But I did know that 2:12:13 to break 2:12:13, that was going to be really, really close. So I think, yeah, that was just like give it as much as you can. The last, I averaged 3:05 a k, so sub 5-minute miling for the last 2.2. So I did manage to pick it up. I was going for it as hard as I could, and yeah, gun time gave me 2:13:02. Managed to sneak under with a chip time 2:12:59. Finished the right. There's some good photos of me finishing where I'm half grimacing, half delighted, but I know I think I'm gonna sneak under the race. Finished it. Across the line. I was hands on knees, completely dead. Within 2 seconds, I'd thrown up everywhere. I threw up 3 times after I finished, but then did recover quite quickly. Once I'd got that out of my system, I think it was just the intensity, all the gels. Haven't talked about that yet, but I took on a gel.
That's the next question.
Yeah. Should I go into that now?
Yeah. Gels,
so from 5k onwards, I took a gel every 7k. I had been planning. I think I said initially that I was going to do every 6k, and that's what I had been doing in my long training sessions. But when I did the maths, I was obviously running faster during the race than I was in my training sessions. So if I was going to take one on every 7k at the projected time, it would have worked out at like 130 grams an hour, which was going to be like that's just like silly to risk that much. So I took one on every 7k, which worked out as 110 grams an hour for the vast majority of the race. The only time I mucked up was I should have taken one at 33k, but by then I was getting I just didn't I couldn't, my head was starting to go, didn't do the maths. I took one on a k later, and I think that might have been also playing into a little bit slower in that region. I think the fueling was I just lost touch of the fueling a bit, and I think that had a small effect, because then I could pick it up again. I wasn't completely fried when I backed off to run those slower Ks from 25 to 30. But yeah, maybe I was still being a bit aggressive with gels, because I did throw up everywhere at the end. But yeah, I also think that was partly just really pushing the intensity in my last 2K and going hands on knees and just squashing my stomach a bit, and then just a bit of pressure on there, just ending up throwing up everywhere. But yeah, fueling worked great, really. More aggressive than last year. I think that did help. I guess sports summer race. I didn't quite negative split, but I went 66-13, 66-46. So another marathon where I held it together really well. And it's one of those ones where it is a bit. At one point, I really thought I could run the 2:12:30, and I think like during the marathon, I mean, just like in the first like 5K, 10K, I thought this is a possibility here, and it sort of felt like I lost 2:12:30 rather than I ran a massive PB and went 2:12:59. I'm really happy that I dipped under 2:13. But like when the chip time came through, yeah, I was really happy with that. I knew it was going to be really close. I thought it might have been a 2:13 dead, which would have been slightly painful because again, like it would have felt like I lost 2:12 instead of ran 2:13. But yeah, delighted with the run. I went 8th in the UK this year, assuming no one runs faster at Pisa Marathon or Malaga Marathon, which I don't think anyone will. So yeah, it's great. The top 10 UK is really cool. Went from I think 150th to 75th on the UK all-time list, which is feels top 100. That's pretty cool. I mean, like
pretty good top 100 to be in, right?
Yeah, there's some good names on that list, and obviously, a lot of them did it pre-carbon shoes, but that's the world we live in now. And Welsh all-time list went from 14th to 7th, I think.
I think it was 7th, yeah. 7th or 8th, maybe.
7th or 8th, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Again, some really good names on that list, and nice to get into the top 10. So yeah, I really, really pleased with a run. I couldn't have done much more I don't think I could have run. It just wasn't in me to run 2:12:30. Yeah, I lost it. There were just a couple of Ks from 25 to 35. Oh no, what was it? From 20 to 30 basically, where I slowed a little bit. Maybe that's a lack of concentration. Maybe if I'd pushed it a bit more there, I would have just been able to hold the pace. I wouldn't have suffered any more in the latter stages, but I think I would have. I think if I tried to push on more there, it would have come back to bite me. Because in the final, like from 35K onwards, I knew I was really, really towing the line between if I push this too much now, I could end up like running 320 Ks, 325 Ks and properly go. So I still and I've done that before, thought like the end's in sight. It's now just run as hard as you can, and just if you're too aggressive there, you can really lose a lot of time still, even the last 2K, can't you?
Yeah.
So it just wasn't in me on my day to run 2:12:30. Gave it a really good crack, and I think throughout the vast majority of the training block, if they'd said you'd run 2:12:59, I would have been delighted, and I am delighted, but it just felt like it was so close. We're so close. But next time, next time.
So a couple more questions from me, like more reflecting back on the whole series. I prepped you with this one before we started recording, but if we recorded the first episode, 8 weeks out, and you did your exercise, you did your lab test, and then you tapered like you did for this, and then you went and ran a marathon, how much slower do you think you were? Or how much do you think the last 8 weeks has added to your performance?
I thought that was a good question, because everyone does obsess, don't they, about the last like 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever of your marathon, or the last 15 weeks of your marathon block. I think if after that test, based on like the numbers, I reckon I'd have run 2:14, 2:14:30 maybe. So actually the last 8 weeks, I think I was already in PB shape then, but not by a massive amount. Like LT2 was pretty much the same. LT1 was a bit better. So I think I gained 90 seconds, 2 minutes in the last 8 weeks, which is obviously quite a big difference in terms of like how happy I am with the result. But I started the block fitter, and actually if you look back at the last like year of training, I've just been so consistent. I've PB'd over 5K. I PB'd over half marathon just before the start of the block. I was like, I nearly matched my 10K PB. I ran 29:25 in Trafford in March, I think it was, and my PB is 29:23, so I was just 2 seconds off there. I've had 5 days off all year, and I've just my total hours have been better, my total mileage has been better, just been more consistent really. And I think that was the decider, starting the block just fitter, and then doing a bit more training during the last 8 weeks than I have done previously. We can dig into that a bit later, but yeah.
When I prepped you with this question, I was saying, like, you know, slightly different sport, but like Christian Blumenfeld, you know, the whole like Norwegian method, like separate out some of the noise that they put out there. Like I'm pretty certain they have, you know, black and white said that they didn't do as well recently because they've been injured. But you know, when they were at the peak of their powers, they had 5 years of training, like consistent training behind them. You know, as much as they like chuck out some, you know, questionable devices and equipment and stuff, like it's just
VO2 max of
consistent
100,
training,
you
isn't
mean
it?
100 102, is it
Yeah,
VO2 max? Yeah, well, that's obviously
and,
we'll
and
move on
VO2
from that.
masters in the pool and stuff, but you know, it's for them, it's 5 years worth of consistent training that got them to the peak of their powers. So there's, yeah, I guess what we're still getting at is, 8-week block, 10-week block, 12-week block is you know, it's what everyone does, but there's more to it. It's what you do before that that's probably more important, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much piss you can get in 10 weeks. So actually, you need to
look, especially
like,
for you, right? You know,
yeah,
how many squeezes of the, I don't know, cloth?
Yeah,
the right phrase. Like how much, how much more performance can you, having, you know, many years of high level running in you, how much can you squeeze out in 8 weeks?
Yeah, exactly. Not like, you can't have you've got to have a good last 8 weeks, but actually where you start that 8 weeks in is going to make a massive difference. And I think I was already the fittest I'd ever been with 8 weeks, 10 weeks to go, across any distance, like 5K, 10K, half, whatever. So that's a great starting point. But yeah,
I think, well, another question, just again relating to this series, where at the start we went in with some really good intentions. I say you went in with some really good intentions of the S&C and the baths. I think someone said to me, like, someone said, I think Monday morning, they were like, oh, like the power of the bath sort of thing. And I said to them that you had only done 3 baths. I think, was it 3 in the end?
Something like that, 3 or 4. Yeah. And I think, you know, there are some things I did different in the last 8 weeks, and I'm going to talk. I've got a load of training data up, which we'll talk through, I think, at the end. But I think there are still things I've got left on the table. The baths just weren't. I can the baths. I just didn't have the time capacity to get them done. The S&C, again, it became a bit of a time issue, and also just. I should have started doing that earlier, doing the S&C earlier, and then I could have really just got into a maintenance phase for the last like 5 or 6 weeks, because I didn't do anything in the last 3 weeks, just on balance of time, energy, prioritizing the key sessions. It didn't. I think I still may have been marginally stronger than than I had been in the like 5 years prior, where I'd done no S&C. But I think I didn't get it right.
That's a real start it now for next Valencia, isn't it? Like, you know, we talk about profiling in terms of the physiology, like actually do the strength testing properly now, and then decide what you're actually going to target with the strength and conditioning in the same way you would with you know, physiology and the components of a marathon, or components of just running. And then target that for 6 to 8 months, and then get to the 8 weeks to go, having improved the areas you need to, I guess, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. And I think this is the time now to do it. Like you said, like I'm building back up the mileage. No goal races for ages. It doesn't matter if you're a bit sore, a bit fatigued, if it's conflicting with your running a little bit, as long as you can still get the running done. That's when you want to really that's where you're going to make some good grounds in strength and those qualities, and there's just going to be more energy available for those sort of adaptations. You're not going to be, even when we're training ramps up a little bit, you're not going to be doing the same mileage, the same like really hard sessions as you were in the last 8 weeks of a marathon block. So something for next time though.
Give yourself the time, isn't it? Like, again, like you can talk about, although it probably makes a difference, but bicarb shoes, gels, whatever else, but like actually just having time and whether that's on a day-to-day basis, if you can have 30 more minutes to train, that's going to benefit you. And if you start something 6 months earlier, that's going to benefit you as well.
Well, it's everyone always underachieves what you overestimates what they can achieve in 10 weeks, 8 weeks, and underestimates what they can achieve over the course of 5-10 years. Because I think when I ran 2:15 at Valencia last year, I think I said to Jemima, she said, "Oh, how fast do you reckon you could run? Like, if you went pro, or you had everything available to you." And I think I said to her, "I reckon I could run a 2:14. I reckon maybe I could run a 2:13 low." And actually, in a year's time, I've gone and run. I'm slightly disappointed with running 2:12:59. And I'm now, if you ask me that question now, I'd go, you know what? I don't think going under 2:10 is like completely unrealistic. I still think there are things on the table, for me to levers I can pull to help me run a little bit faster, like the S&C, doing the baths, using the bicarb. Because I didn't use the bicarb, there were quite a few people in our booth at the start, a few of the Brits mixing their bicarb together, and Norman Shreve asked me if I was going to partake in this in the joyful experience of eating salt, and I told him no, not this time, maybe next time, and I think that could make a difference, but I didn't want to take the risk this time. I hadn't practiced it, and I would have been I knew I was in great shape, so didn't want to risk. It was just too much of a risk, a sacrifice, being to wasting a whole training block and being really, really knowing like the fittest you've ever been, and end up in the Portaloo like 5 times. So that's something that I would try in another block. But like I said, it's just giving yourself the time to do it.
So you compiled some training data for this year where we're talking about what's actually gone on before the past 8 weeks. What's this year look like compared to last year?
Before we jump to that, I'd like to give a few shout outs to the Brits at the race. Like the Brits did really, really well. Like the guys, there were some big breakthrough performances from a lot of my mates. I've got to give definitely a shout out to Dan Hamilton from Pontypridd Rodents. He's in a sort of similar position to me in that he was delighted but gutted at the same time, because his PB going in was 2:17, 17, I can't remember. He ran so his gun time was 2:15:03, and he was like, right, he was, as soon as he finished, he's like, I think my chip time might have snuck under, and his chip time was 2:15:00. So he's like me, delighted, but at the same time, like, it was nearly a 2:14.
Watching the live coverage, this was the second year in a row where a Dan that runs for Pontypridd was in the women's group, and he was getting a lot of coverage. Like he was at the front of the group. Yeah,
I've not seen any of the coverage, but he paced it really well. Had a great race. It was pretty much on 2:15. I dead paced the whole way, and ran really well. Another friend of mine, Ronnie Richmond. So Ronnie, I've known him a long time. He's from Biddeford. I grew up racing with him. He won't mind me saying he's a little bit older than me. I think he's 42. He's about 40. And we did the when I ran for 2:15 at Manchester the first time, we ran together pretty much the whole way. I just pushed on in the last 10k, and he ran 2:16 and I ran 2:15:30, whatever. And he's had a few good goes since. He did the 50k.
He took your 50k record, right?
He did take my 50k record. Yeah, we ran the European 50k champs together. And he struggled there. That was his first 50k, and he had a bit of he had a bit of a bad day. He had a bit of a niggle, I think, going into it. But then did the British Champs earlier this year, and he snuck my 50k record off me. I think he did 2:48, and then mine was like 2:49 dead or something. But I don't begrudge him, mate. He's a really, really nice guy. And anyway, he ran 2:15.10, but ended up getting trampled on at the start. Tripped. The start was quite busy. He got the person in front of him tripped over. He ended up on the floor, got trampled on. Lost half his gels. Lost his £120 sunglasses. Was on the floor for 20 seconds. Got back up. Got through the race. Paced it really evenly. Ran like 2:15.10 or something. At the end, he's like, I think I've got concussion and I think I've broken ribs. And when he got back to the UK, went to A&E, and probably concussed and had like 4 or 5 broken ribs. So he ran a massive PB, 2:15. I think it was third all time, bet 40. In that situation, I think so some good resilience, I think, to bounce back from that and just not lose your head.
Yeah, he's a postman as well, isn't he?
He's a postman. Yeah.
Yeah, so running 2:15 and on your feet all day.
Yeah, well, he's moved to the office now, but he actually preferred the sorting office, I think. But he preferred to be out on the rounds. I think he actually doesn't like it as much. He said it was better for training before. But anyway, great run. And so it was just really Chris Perry ran 2:14. There was a handful of guys. Will Mycroft, did he run 2:15? There were a load of guys who ran 2:15, 2:16. Running really good times. So delighted for them. We always had a really nice group photo afterwards, and met with a few of them for drinks as well, which was super nice. So
there's some really good depth, isn't there, from I guess like 2:11, 2:12 to sort of 2:15, 2:16, right? And it's easy to focus on the top few guys that are faster than that, but there's a lot of depth in the UK at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the amount of people who are sub 220 these days. I remember when sub 220 was. If you went sub 220, you were like one of the guys to be you're one of the top guys. And now I'm just getting up power 10 here. You've got to be. I think 220 is going to get you going under 220. Oh, here it is. So 52 people under 220 this year, with a couple of marathons still left to go. And loads at the 2:15 mark. Dan Hamilton, Ronnie Richmond, Callum Hawkins, Dave Bishop. He had a great race in Valencia. Alex Lepetra, Ryan Thomas had a great run. Logan Smith, Will Mycroft, all running 2:15. My Welsh teammate Chris Thomas ran 2:16.32. That was a big PB from him, so well done. It's crazy. The depth is just ridiculous. But pleased to get 8th, 2:12.59, 8th UK this year. Very happy with that. But so quickly this morning, like I said, I'm doing a bit of analysis on my training in the last 10 weeks. We've just said, but the last 10 weeks doesn't make or break it. It's more about what we've done before. But I was interested to see what I had done differently in the 10 weeks going into Valencia last year, where I ran my PB 2:15.19, and what I did this year to run 2:12.59. So forget about already being fitter, going into the block, what did I actually do? So I've got the average distance in Ks for the last 10 weeks. So I averaged 155k a week in the last 10 weeks. That's including the taper, so literally the 10 up to Valencia Marathon, 10 weeks prior. So average 155k this year compared to 136k last year. So what's that in miles? I got moaned at by someone yesterday for not doing it in miles. So let's work that out. 96 miles this year versus 84 last year. But again, in both of the blocks, there were weeks where I actually didn't do that much because of illness. So my peak week this year was 204k versus 192 last year. And I was up at I was over 180, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think like 5 times I went over 180k this year versus just twice last year. So yeah, I ran more miles. So that's like the first just takeaway. But then I wanted to do a bit of a split of actually what do those miles make up at. So I went and looked at like my time in the different training zones. So looking at, I use a 5-zone model. And I've so zone 1, zone 2 below lactate threshold, LT1. Zone 3 between LT1 and LT2, so about like threshold area. Zone 4 and zone 5 from LT2 up to VO2 max, basically. And I've just looked at the time in each of those heart rate zones, which for each block. And well, I can go, but this year I did 85 hours of zone 1, 10.5 hours of zone 2, 10 hours of zone 3, 41 minutes of zone 4, and 32 minutes of zone 5. So definitely pyramidal distribution in terms of exercise intensity. So that basically means for every time I increase the zone, I do less training. So obviously the vast majority of it was in zone 1. If I look to last year, yeah, I did less training. But in terms of miles or Ks, but actually most of that difference was in the easy running. So I did 63 hours versus 85 hours last year compared to this year. I did more running in zone 2 last year. I did 15.5 hours versus 10.5 hours. So that was interesting to me. And then actually the rest of it was pretty similar. So I did 9 hours 40 versus 9 hours 57 in zone 3. I did 19 minutes in zone 4 versus 41 minutes in zone 4 this year. And I did it was really hard on the graph on Training Peaks. It was really hard to see how much time I actually did in zone 5 last year, but I think it was about 1 or 2 minutes versus 32 minutes in zone 5 this year. So there's a little bit of difference at the high intensity, but actually most of that is coming from just the fact that I raced Cardiff half this year and didn't do any racing in that final block last year, or not very much anyway. I definitely didn't do a half, and you do accumulate quite a lot of minutes in a half marathon at those higher intensities. So actually, although most of the extra benefit I seem to have got seems to be coming from just doing easy miles, an extra 21 hours of easy running in zone 1. And actually the zone 2 stuff, well, I did 5 hours less and ran 2.5 minutes quicker. So I think that could be something for people to question, because zone 2 is really trendy at the minute, isn't it? Everyone's zone 2. But I do feel that actually, if you're really fit, zone 2 is quite a lot of cost in terms of energy and muscle damage, and even just like psychological effort versus running in zone 1. Yeah. And the benefits aren't actually that much more.
We talked about this, just like as you mentioned these numbers just before we started recording, and like we'll try and do this without going down a rabbit hole, but like there's no way to draw a line between zone 1 and zone 2. It's stick your finger up in the air and figure it out. And we were saying like for Dan, zone 2 is fast. It's it's going to be faster than 4-minute Ks for you, right? Like that's going to be that's a real biomechanical musculoskeletal load for what's meant to be an easy run, whereas for me zone 2 is a bit slower, so I tend to end up doing a bit more in zone 2 versus, and it's not just Dan. Like I've heard Brett Robinson, who actually just had his Australian marathon record broken, but he got asked this training for marathons, like, why don't you do easy runs at 4-minute Ks? And he was saying because it's fast, and that's not necessarily the point of an easy run, is it? You're meant to accumulate time without accumulating musculoskeletal and physiological load. So there is that sort of consideration when you are running at the speeds that you're running. And like we said, you can't, like, what are you were saying 20 beats below LT1 for your dividing line, but it could be 15, it could be 25.
Yeah, there's no physiological. It makes sense to break it up because otherwise it could be a really, really wide zone. I mean, for me, like when I tested in my lab, my LT1 was 19k an hour, so that's 309 a k, 505 a mile, or basically what I ran the marathon at. So if everything below that was just one zone, well, that's just not practical. Like everything from walking up to running at nearly 5-minute mile pace is one zone. Well, that's just impractical, isn't it? So it makes sense to break it up, but there's no actual physiological anchor point that you can use to go, right, this is zone 1 and this is zone 2. I do 20 beats for me. 100 below 130. My zone 2 is 135 to 155 heart rate. Because LT1 is 155 normally, about that. So I felt like 20 beats is a usable zone where if I wanted to do something specifically in zone 2, I could target that intensity and just stick in that zone without, you don't want a zone that's only 5 beats wide or even 10 beats wide. It's probably not that practical, but something that's 20 beats sounds about right. And like in terms of paces, like 135 beats for me, if I'm in super shoes, I could be running 330 a k probably. 540 a mile, that sort of pace. So that's still, that feels like a usable zone, like 330 to 310 a k, like that's quite wide. But if I went and run about every day, I couldn't do those extra hours of training that I've managed to do this block versus last block. Like I couldn't do another, I couldn't have done another 22 hours of easy running. Oh, sorry, 21 hours of easy running. I couldn't have done, I don't think I could have done an average of 155k versus 136k of running if I'd done more. And the fact that I did less zone 2 running but seemed to have a better response suggests to me that it's not that important, the intensity, as long as you're getting out there and doing the miles. I think on balance, doing zone 2 is better than zone 1. If you were going to do, if you're going to hold the same distance, if you're going to hold your mileage the same, so you do 100k of running at zone 2 is going to give you a better response than 100k of running at zone 1. But that's not how it works. You can tolerate more miles by reducing the intensity. And if you're doing lots of miles, then you can't get away with pushing on your easy stuff as much.
Yeah. I think we maybe for our Christmas episode or end of year episode or whatever we end up doing, we should just have a 15-minute just rant, Dan and Owen on the loose about zone 2.
Yeah, I do think it can be valuable. And I think if I was going to do longer stuff, like preparing for 50Ks, 100Ks, then I would go and focus more on that area, because that becomes more specific. Then it's pretty much where you're going to be doing your racing. So it's obviously more specific, and the limiting factors to doing that sort of training, your glycogen levels, the muscle damage, are what are going to limit you during a race. But for a marathon, I think, certainly if you're doing a lot of miles and you're very fit, so the absolute intensity is quite high, you don't want to be doing, or I can't, for me anyway, do loads of stuff with that intensity. I think the quality of my hard days would suffer if I was trying to push more on the easy stuff.
Yeah, like if you had to step out the door, some of these runs at like 5 a.m. and you're like, oh shit, I need to go run 350 a k.
Yeah,
like you just break, wouldn't you? Like mentally and physically. Like whereas so there's
it just wouldn't
definitely
be fun as well. It just wouldn't be fun. Like I wouldn't, and you can't go out and run that mileage if all of it is just uncomfortable, hard, unenjoyable. I look forward to doing the sessions instead of dreading them, because it's just another day where you're going to hurt. Most of the time. Sometimes I don't look forward to the sessions. I'm just tired. I don't want it to happen, but I don't want to do it. But most of the time, it's fun to go run fast, especially if it's fast but controlled. But yeah, that's my takeaway from the block anyway. It was a better block of training, more training. Most of the benefits seem to be coming from the easy stuff, but I was also already fitter going into the block. So I have got the 2 tests, and the second test was much better than the first test. But that seems to have come about more by just doing more easy running versus because going in, I thought before I plugged this data, I got the data up this morning. I thought I'd done much more zone 3 this year than last year, but it was pretty much identical. And I have done some longer zone 3 sessions, like threshold sessions that I did for 12 by 6 minutes, and I did half a dozen sessions where I was doing over an hour's worth of stuff in that, you know, threshold zone. So yeah, that could definitely have an effect. It's not just this is obvious. It's a simplistic way of looking at looking at time in training zone, because there's multiple different ways of accumulating those minutes. But broad brushstrokes, it seems to be that my zone 3 work was the same, but I did more easy stuff.
Yeah. So again, when we started, just before we started recording, you said you're properly in marathon blues. But have you thought about what's next? I know you had a phone call yesterday.
Yeah, so I got a phone call from British Athletics yesterday, which basically said, yeah, you've not been picked, unfortunately. But it was nice actually. They did say that, yeah, it was with Tom Craggs, and he did say, yeah, I'm really, really pleased with your run. Really, you should be delighted with it. It was a great performance. You're obviously really good at executing. Unfortunately, you just didn't quite make the time, which is basically the crux of it. So in my head, I didn't run the time. I wasn't expecting to be picked, but it was nice to have that call and say, yeah, we're watching you. We recognise what you did. It was a great run. He did suggest maybe having to go at the half time for the European Road Running Champs. It's 62:30, which is pretty rapid. I would be I'd have to get fitter again than where I am now to run that. I reckon I could have PB'd at every if I'd raced at any distance. I think on Sunday I'd have PB'd. I reckon I would have gone under. I think I could have snuck under 29 for 10k, and I think I would have run a 63 mid half maybe, but 62:30 is another step on. I might try and get into Barcelona, have a go at that, run Barcelona half, which is in February, which I think is just before the closing window. I need to read the selection policy properly. It's a bit complicated, the selection policy, because some of it was based upon the big half, but then I don't think people who necessarily were the top finishers of a big half have got the qualifying times. And no one at the big half was really slow. No one actually at the big half around the qualifying time. So it's a little bit of I need to go through and read the selection policy properly, but my plan already was probably to go and try and do a half, probably Barcelona, because it's really quick in February, and then do London Marathon. That's the plan. There'll probably be some more races in there, but yeah, I'd like to go and I've raced London twice and raced really badly twice, so I'd like to have a good experience of running London. Try and finish as one of the top Brits, and yeah, have a good go. It's not as fast a course as Valencia, so I think it'll be it's just having done it. It's not slow, but it's not Valencia. If you haven't been to Valencia, it's just stupid fast. The depth of the runners, there's not a hill on there at all. Like we were joking that there was a slight, but everyone ran a little bit slower, 30 from like 25 to 30k. And you go on the profile, you go on your Strava profile, it looks like there's a mountain on there, because it's of the scale of the graph, but it's something like 50 meters over the course of a whole marathon climbing, which is nothing.
Yeah, you go from 3 meters at 20k to 29 meters at 35.
Yeah. The last 5k is like the last 10k I think is all downhill.
Yeah.
But it's marginally downhill. You can feel it just about, but it is all downhill. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see if I can run a PB at London, but I'd just like to finish highest Brit I can. I think, if I get, especially because it'll be interesting, because it'll be the World Champs in the summer, so people won't be doing London and then the World Champs necessarily. You've also got this European Road Running Champ, so actually it might be a good year to try and finish top Brit or one of the top Brits at London. So
yeah. And you might as well, like from a British perspective, like London looks after Brits, and you get it's a sort of once in a lifetime thing to be running through 30k and like onwards along the embankment, and there's not many people on the road in front of you, sort of thing. Like that's a sort of like once in a lifetime experience, isn't it? So you might as well. Or you get to cross. You get to be one of the first people across Tower Bridge. Like that's pretty cool.
No, that's the thing. I'd like to go back, and it's a really cool race. The atmosphere is incredible. but I've just got bad memories because I've run it twice and run really badly twice.
You did the COVID one, didn't you?
I did the COVID one, and I think I'd overtrained and I was just not as fit as I thought I was. Went out too hard and blew up basically. And then on a lap course where it was like 2K laps, it's just so easy to pull out. My hip did go a little bit. It was really cold and wet, and I suffered a bit. And then so that was a bad day. And then the next year I did it when it was back to being in the normal elite race. Apart from it was in the September time, I think. October. And training gone pretty well. Again, I think I'd borderline done a bit too much, but I think I was ill on the start line. Like, I think I'd picked something up more race week because I felt pretty rubbish the whole way, and I was nowhere near. Where I had been, even in training. Ended up getting chest pain at halfway, and long story short, ended up in A&E the next day, and had like really high troponin markers, which are like blood markers, which is it's a marker of cardiac damage. And everything ended up being fine. Had an MRI, and I was all fine. But I definitely had been running with a virus, I think, and done myself a little bit of put myself in a bit of a bad health hole. But I've never had any of those issues again. So I'd like to go back to London and do it well. You get drinks, you get looked after pretty well.
Yeah.
It's just not quite as fast a course, and the depth isn't there. You could run, if I'd ran 2:12 at London, I could have been by myself pretty much the whole way, potentially. It just depends on the group and who's around. Whereas I had such a good group in Valencia again. It was I was with someone the whole way, even at the end where the group started to splinter off and the group faded. I was pushing on with a few other guys, and there were still people I could pick off and target. I think out of our group of about 20, I think I finished like 4th out of that group, and we just even in the last like 10K we were working together a bit, and it just worked really well. So you don't have that in London, but there are other perks, and the only other equivalent really is going to do Seville, and that's in February. That's just too early. I'm not going to do another marathon in February. I prefer to get a good half in.
It's like 11 and a half weeks, I think, away.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Sessman did it last year, didn't he? And maybe if it was the Olympics and I was chasing a qualifying time, then yeah, maybe I'd go do that because it's so fast, and it's like Valencia. It's really fast course, really good depth, but the window for the Europeans closed the day after Valencia. There's no other qualifying time for me to chase, so I prefer to give myself time to really like put in a good block, run a half, and have a good run at London. So that's provisionally what's next, I think.
I guess if you're still listening, should we do a quick bit of housekeeping about the podcast in general? Yeah. So we were saying, I think the plan is to do a bit of a Q&A, and maybe we're going to chuck a topic, sort of like where we did the supplements probably a couple of months ago now. Do one sort of topic at the start, which we were saying was going to be nose strips, because I had like 5 people ask me after Valencia, like, why are people wearing these like nasal strips? And some of them are just little bits. Yeah, some of them are just little bits of fabric, but then you see in some other sports as well, you see actually like a piece of metal going into people's nose. So we thought we would maybe do a bit of a dive into those, because that's certainly going to be something that you see popping up more and more. I mean, it was Valencia and Liverpool Cross; they're everywhere.
I just think Paula Radcliffe, like they were in a massive phase, don't they? Paula Radcliffe used to wear one, didn't she? And then they sort of disappeared for a few years, and now they're back. So we'll dig into that. We thought we'd maybe do a 10-15 minute sort of dive into those, and then some questions, because we've built up quite a lot of questions over the past few weeks. But yeah, I mean, if you have any other questions, we're also now on Instagram. What's the account called? It's physiology.of.endurance, or just look up our profiles. We had some feedback as well that maybe when we're talking about things like splits, we should visually put it on an Instagram page. Follow us on there. We'll try to get some graphics on there, shall we, and make it a bit easier to follow along.
We'll do like a post reach podcast and have the visual sort of aids as well. We are aware when we're chucking out, mile and kilometer splits, it can be a bit confusing. And then I mean, the other thing we've I've started this idea. We batted about this idea of doing another Road 2 series in the new year. Being honest, there's a bit of imposter syndrome on my part trying to now follow Dan running 2:12. But I'm possibly going to enter a race. People from South Wales might know about it, called Barry Track 40. It's a 40-mile race around a track.
So Owain's a nutter and he wants to do a 40-mile track race.
Well,
but it's like,
I've done it once, haven't I?
Yeah.
And
Oh, well, you
crashed and
started
burnt.
it once. Yeah, you started.
Yeah, not finished.
Yeah.
And I think the thought from my end, at least, is that it's a slightly different challenge. Like, if we do the series, we'll break it down, but it's effectively how high can you push your first threshold, because that's the pace you're going to be running at, and then how many carbs can I eat, and then some economy stuff as well, durability maybe. But it's a bit of a different sort of event to the marathon, which is where we thought the training might be, although actually that would probably be a notable thing. It won't be much different to marathon training, but the demands of the race are a bit different, and it sort of crosses into that ultra marathon territory, which a lot of people do. So yeah, still, I don't think it's definite. Probably mostly imposter syndrome on my part. I'll have to send it's a paper entry form, so I'll have to do that. Send that to Nick.
Yeah, but it is an iconic event. It's been going for years and years, and some of the best ultra runners in the country have done it historically, and even now do it. So like, is it Project's Breaking 4? Is it Breaking 4 hours?
I don't think Breaking 4. 4 hours 20, I think, is it like a nice target. I need to figure it out in like minutes per K. But yeah, so I think we'll probably do that starting in the new year. So I'll need to get exercise tested before then. But yeah, so I guess what's coming up, we'll do a Q&A and a deep dive into these nasal strips. So if you have any questions, chuck them our way. I don't want to set our expectations too high and say we'll do another episode before Christmas or New Year, because I think we're both pretty tired, aren't we? Both a bit cooked. Yeah. I'm selfishly moving house, so that's gonna cause some issues as well from my end. But I don't know. Maybe we'll get out a second episode. But yeah, then in the new year we were saying we're going to try get some guests on as well. We're going to do a bit of a sort of business planning meeting. It'll probably be over a cup of tea in an office. And figure out
like down a pub, but he's revised back a cup of tea. So we've just been winging it so far, haven't we? But people seem to like it. So hopefully, if we put a bit more structure and thought into what we're doing, then maybe it'll become even more people enjoy listening to us. So we'll see how that goes out. But I guess
let us know if you have any thoughts about topics, ideas. We said we wanted to do taper before, or do like the physiology of tapers before Valencia. So maybe we'll do that if I do Barry 40 the week before. I was too busy with like the last week of my data collection, and then I thought I don't think Dan really wants to talk about the tapers and read into maybe what he's doing wrong the week before doing a race. But yeah, no, that's definitely on our list, because there's some quite interesting stuff about that, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but should we wrap that up there?
Yeah, it's been a big episode.
I haven't got the time up here. We've been going for quite a long time, I think, haven't we?
But yeah, thanks for listening through this series.
And
thank you to Saw as well.
Yeah, thanks to Saw. Thanks for supporting the podcast. Thanks for the race kit. Thanks to everyone who sent me a message. I was inundated. It was really nice. I'm sorry if I haven't got back to you, but yeah. I'm getting PBs on all my Instagram posts, so and all my mates tell me I'm an influencer now, which I still refuse, because to be an influencer you've got to do talking pieces to camera. That's what I think. So I've not made that jump yet. Maybe I need another few months of podcasting, but no, I would try and it's just for some reason it's a dirty word, isn't it, influencer? But
it's been tarnished by a few people, I think.
Yeah, there are some bloody annoying influencers out there. There's some people putting out really good stuff, and there's some people who it's like torture, isn't it?
We'll name our least favorite influencers on the Christmas episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a bonus. That's a bonus. That's for the Patreon members. Yeah. Right.
Cheers, thanks everybody. Thanks everyone for listening. Catch you again soon.